Welcome to Rhema Words of Faith, Daily Bread Devotionals. Today, we're diving into the powerful verse of James 1 verse 5, which says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him." This verse is a beautiful invitation from God to ask for wisdom, and it comes with a promise. God will give it generously and without hesitation. In our world, we often find ourselves facing decisions, challenges, and uncertainties. Sometimes, it's hard to know the right path to take, or we may be unsure of how to navigate through tough situations. James 1 verse 5 assures us that we don't have to rely on our own understanding. God is offering us His wisdom, freely and abundantly. Today, let's explore how we can receive this wisdom from God, how it can guide our lives, and why it's so essential for walking in the truth and fullness of God's plan for us. The verse begins with the acknowledgement that, "If any of you lacks wisdom." The first step in receiving God's wisdom is recognizing that we need it. As humans, we tend to rely on our own understanding or the advice of others. But there are times when we reach an impasse, unsure of what to do. This is where wisdom from God becomes crucial. Wisdom is different from knowledge. Knowledge is the accumulation of facts, but wisdom is the ability to apply those facts in a way that aligns with God's will. To receive God's wisdom, we must first admit that we lack it. Admitting that we need God's help isn't a sign of weakness. It's an act of humility and faith. God is eager to give us His wisdom, but first, we must recognize our need for it. It's important to note that God's wisdom is not just for life's big decisions, but also for the day-to-day choices we make. From the little things to the significant moments, God is ready and willing to provide the wisdom we need to navigate life. James 1 verse 5 continues, "Let him ask of God." The simple act of asking is an essential part of receiving wisdom. God is a generous Father, and He desires to give us wisdom. But asking is our part in the process. It's not enough to simply hope for wisdom or wish that we had it. We need to actively ask God for it. This is an invitation to pray with intention, asking God for the clarity, insight, and understanding we need. The Bible tells us in Matthew 7 verse 7, "Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find." God is not holding back His wisdom from us. He's waiting for us to ask. There is power in asking, because it shows that we trust God to provide. It's a reminder that we are dependent on Him for the answers, not on our own strength or knowledge. So whenever you feel lost, uncertain, or unsure, don't hesitate to ask God for wisdom. He is faithful to answer, and His wisdom will always lead you in the right direction. James 1 verse 5 goes on to say that God gives wisdom liberally and without reproach. This is one of the most encouraging parts of this verse. God is not stingy with His wisdom. He gives it generously to everyone who asks. God's wisdom is available to all of us, regardless of where we come from or what we've done. There is no limit to the wisdom God is willing to give, and He does not criticize or rebuke us for asking. This is the nature of God's generosity. He is not withholding His wisdom from us because we don't deserve it or because we failed in the past. Instead, He freely gives it, without judgment. This should be a huge comfort to us, especially when we feel unsure of ourselves or when we feel we've messed up. God is not disappointed in us for asking for wisdom. He is eager to pour it out. There's no need to hesitate or fear asking God for wisdom. He will always give it freely and without reproach. This is a gift that we can ask for at any time, no matter our situation. The final part of James 1 verse 5 says, "And it will be given to him." This is the beautiful assurance that God's wisdom will be granted when we ask for it. God does not tease us or give us half answers. When we come to Him in faith, He promises that His wisdom will be given to us. We don't need to wonder if He will respond or if He will give us the right answer. God's promises are certain, and His wisdom will always lead us in the right direction. Sometimes, we may expect immediate answers or feel frustrated if the answers don't come quickly. But God's timing is perfect. Sometimes, God's wisdom comes in the form of an immediate understanding or a sudden clarity. Other times, it may come gradually, as we trust Him and walk in faith. But regardless of how it comes, we can be confident that God will give us the wisdom we need. When we ask in faith, we can expect God to answer. This is an invitation to trust in God's provision of wisdom and to rely on His answers, knowing that they are always good and perfect for us. James 1 verse 6 tells us that when we ask God for wisdom, we must ask in faith, without doubting. Faith is key to receiving the wisdom God promises. It's not enough to simply ask for wisdom. We must also trust that God will give it to us and believe that He is capable of providing the answers we need. Doubt can often cloud our thoughts, making us unsure of whether God will answer our prayers. But God is faithful to His promises, and when we ask in faith, He is faithful to respond. Asking with faith means approaching God with confidence, knowing that He is generous and trustworthy. It means believing that the wisdom He gives will be exactly what we need, whether it's immediate or revealed over time. The more we trust God for wisdom, the more we will experience His guidance in every area of our lives. If you're struggling with doubt, take time to remind yourself of God's character. He is faithful, loving, and generous. When you approach God in prayer, do so with a heart full of faith, trusting that He will answer. When we think about wisdom, we often imagine it being needed for big decisions, like choosing a career path or making life-changing moves. But in reality, God's wisdom is essential for every part of our lives, even in the small, everyday moments. Whether we're facing conflicts at work, trying to manage our relationships, or making decisions about how to spend our time, we need God's wisdom for it all. Asking for wisdom doesn't have to be reserved for the major moments. God wants to guide us in everyday choices too. James 1 verse 5 reminds us that God is generous in His giving of wisdom. He doesn't limit it to certain situations. He is eager to help us make decisions that honor Him, lead to peace, and reflect His love. So, whether you're deciding what to say to a friend or how to manage a busy schedule, God is ready to offer you His wisdom. No situation is too small for God to help guide you through, and He wants to be a part of every decision you make. James 1 verse 5 is particularly valuable when we're facing trials and temptations. The context of this verse is rooted in the encouragement that God will provide wisdom when we are enduring hardship. Trials can leave us feeling confused, uncertain, and unsure of what to do next. Whether we're facing personal struggles, health challenges, or relational issues, the pressure can make it hard to see the way forward. But God promises to give us wisdom in those moments. The wisdom He provides helps us navigate our challenges with grace and peace, enabling us to see His purposes even in the hardest times. Wisdom doesn't just help us escape difficulty, it equips us to endure with faith. When we're tempted to react out of frustration or impatience, God's wisdom helps us to respond in ways that reflect His character. Asking for wisdom during trials ensures that we're walking in the direction God wants us to go, and that we're making choices that bring glory to Him. Remember, God is not far from us during our struggles. He is ready and willing to give us wisdom when we ask. Humility is another key ingredient in receiving wisdom from God. James 1 verse 5 speaks to the fact that when we lack wisdom, we should ask of God, and this requires a humble heart. Wisdom isn't something we can earn or figure out on our own. It's not a prize for the smart or the self-sufficient. It's a gift that God offers to those who acknowledge their need for it. Humility is the understanding that we don't have all the answers, and we are fully dependent on God to lead us. When we come to God with humility, we are admitting that we don't have the wisdom on our own, and we're asking Him to provide what we lack. The more humble we are in our approach to God, the more He will pour out His wisdom in our lives. Humility opens our hearts to receive what God has for us and enables us to walk in the wisdom He gives. If you find yourself feeling overwhelmed or unsure, remind yourself that asking for wisdom is an act of humility, an acknowledgement that you trust God to guide you and show you the way. God's wisdom is available to us every day. When we ask for it, we can trust that He will provide guidance, clarity, and peace. James 1 verse 5 encourages us to take advantage of God's generosity and ask for wisdom in every situation. Whether it's in big decisions, small moments, or in times of trial, God's wisdom is a light that leads us through life's uncertainties. The more we rely on His wisdom, the more we will experience His peace and direction in our lives. If this message has encouraged you today, please like, comment, and share this video with someone who needs to hear this reminder. And don't forget to subscribe to Rhema Words of Faith, Daily Bread Devotionals, for more inspirational messages that will help you walk in the wisdom and guidance of God. As you seek wisdom, remember that God is always ready to give generously. He will never withhold it from you.